gentlemen, this show is one of the many reasons why we do the show. You'll not believe what you're about to hear. There's a child out there that this man loves. You'll meet him in a moment. He thought it was his and then was told by his wife, I want a divorce, and then he found out through DNA tests that he was not the biological father. The now non-father is forced to pay child support. Does that seem odd to you? Why? Because he's the only available male. This is family law, a reality that exists in your courts on your taxpayer dime. Yes, it's on you to pay taxes for this type of law. Done, quote unquote, on your behalf? It's strange indeed. So we're about to hear these outrages often, and let's hope that we can handle this outrage today. This is a little unusual, and I have with my left Mike DeFrancesca, who's a paternity victim here, and to his left Gary Jacobs, a legal reformer. If you would do me a favor, and if you could do the highlight version of your story, and just basically how we just talked about it just a moment ago, so I can set the pace for the group.
Okay. My name is Michael DeFrancesca. I was married in August of 2000. It was during that time, after a year of marriage, we were separated. During the time of that separation, we were separated for about 3 or 4 months when she phoned me to tell me she had something that very important to tell me, and she needed to see me in person. So the very next day after the phone call, I met her in Northport at the docks, where she proceeded to show me a sonogram. You know, my initial reaction was very skeptical because I haven't seen her. There wasn't the months. I was very skeptical. However, when you know, she started crying, you know, kind of made me feel horrible.
Sure. Yeah.
So I said, okay, we'll talk about it. You know, at that time, confused, I went to my family and I told them the news, where they were excited. You know, as any future grandparents would be, they were excited. And they said, "What's wrong with you? Why are you not excited?" I said, "It's impossible." You know, however, you know, after you know, obviously the situation, I mean, I wish I could go back and tell that guy, you know, don't do it. But I went back with her, and you know, we bought a house together, and we moved in, and we were going to start, you know, what I deemed, you know, a family. I want to raise my child the right way.
So you really didn't give a lot of thought at that point. You had this inkling, though, didn't you?
Yes, there was a lot of skepticism, but it was quickly overshadowed by excitement.
Right.
And the love.
And love. You know, I was raised very well. I was raised traditional, very well. 5 o'clock, if you know, dinner every night with the family, 5 p.m. In my neighborhood where I grew up, we were a bunch of kids all the same age. We all had, our fathers all had distinct whistles, and we'd all go running when we heard our whistles. So that was my life, that was my childhood, and it was, you know, I'm grateful to have that type of family. So we did start our life together, and you know, there were some red flags that, you know, I would argue with my ex-wife, and some of the comments she would make to me was, "Oh, as if you only knew." What the hell? What are you talking about? If I only knew what? What are you talking about? Long story short, you know, the relationship ultimately ended quickly, and I guess I should point out, and this is another thing that really made me concerned, was the day I walked out of my house, you know, another man moved in. That, you know, literally hours after I left.
Wow.
How old was your daughter at this point?
She was 3. Curiously enough, I went to pick up my daughter, as I did every other. I was after the initial divorce, I was always involved. I was always there, talking to her, picking her up, playing with her. Before
you had a go of it.
Yeah, no, I was very, very
into it, right?
engaged. I was engaged. I loved being a dad.
Great.
We were on my porch. Well, her porch. It's now her porch, and she said to me something very curious. She said, "Do you mind if Ross adopts Caitlin?" It's like, you know, what does that do to, you know, you know, what does that do to a guy? I stared at her with my mouth open, and I just said, she goes, "You don't have to pay anything. and you could still see her. To let my boyfriend adopt your daughter. So, you know, these are occurrences that would happen and you know, create a lot of emotions.
Second guessing, sure. A lot of things going on there.
Yeah. So, you know, time passed. Unfortunately for me, too much time passed. Because New York State does have a law. You know, we were divorced. I signed that paperwork, and approximately, you know, a year and a half later, my parents, who were elderly, said to me, you know, we're making our wills. And, you know, there was really no engagement. My parents would call Lynette, can we see the grand, and it was.
They didn't get a chance to spend any time?
No, not at all. So my father said to me, Michael.
Was that by design, Mike?
Yeah, not yet. Hindsight being 20/20, absolutely.
Yeah.
My father said to me, we're making our wills. Your mother and I would like you to do a paternity test. Now, this is where many men may differ.
Right.
You know, what would a man who loves his child do when their parents asked him to do a paternity test? And if there was no occurrences that created doubt and like asking the boyfriend to adopt, I would have said, no, Mom, Dad, I'm not doing the paternity test. This is my, you know.
Sure.
I relented because of all those occurrences, and I said, let's see what the hell.
I hope you're not feeling guilty about that. I mean, based on all the signs you had, that was the thing you had to do.
Yes, and I've asked many men whom I respect and who I like, even my father. There's no one like him in the world, but I've asked many men whom I respect and who I try to be like. 100% of them. No, I would have done it in a second. So yes, we did a DNA. And there are only two answers you can get with a DNA test, 0% or 99. And when that test came back 0%, you know, my heart dropped. I lost it. You know, everybody's crying.
Sure.
I lost it. So I called the DNA lab and I said, this is a mistake. No, sir. We stand by our results. I'm sorry, it's not your child. No, you don't understand. It's a mistake. You don't understand. She looks like me. No, sir. It's not. It's from no. So then. It was a very expensive test, $400 or $500. So we did did it 3 more times from different labs. So I was all 4 labs. The result of the paternity test was 0%.
I would have, after the second one,
Gave up.
I don't know what I would have done because the love for the child interferes with my brain right now. But the second DNA test is pretty conclusive.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate why you stuck it in.
No. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I appreciate that coming from you.
What do you think you can do to maintain that relationship with your daughter now? Or is it possible?
What was your daughter told? I mean, how does she know that?
No, I'm still dad. The ex-wife, because she's from an Italian family as well, denies it. You know, even though I've showed my former stepfather the results.
Denies.
That, you know, to this day she swears I'm dad.
Okay.
Yeah, even though I have conclusive.
Yeah, right.
Even though, so she's in a pickle herself. I should mention that, you know, I've trusted this woman explicitly, and, you know, I'm also the official #1 deadbeat dad in New York State by owing close to $300,000 in arrears. $300,000, and it's affected my life.
Sure. How can you manage that altogether? How would you manage it?
It's cost me several jobs in healthcare. I cannot drive a vehicle legally. I cannot get my license back until I satisfy those arrears, which will be never.
Right.
I haven't seen my daughter for about a year now. The interactions throughout life were, I sensed a problem with this. She'd never want to leave. She looked forward to spending time. We did a lot of activities together, horseback riding. I loved every second of the day I spent with that child. Ultimately, when child support collections suspended my license about a year and a half ago to this day, that was the last time I ever saw her. When they took my license, I never saw my, they never saw, I never picked up my daughter again.
Gary, don't you see something strange with this regarding the application of a law that would ask, it's kind of a quid pro quo. You pay for something, that should be your access.
Right. And the way what touched me when I heard the story was that he was obviously victimized by his ex-wife. Now he's being victimized by the court on top of it. Instead of saying, look, this is a stand-up guy, he's saying, I still want to be the father figure. I love my daughter. I still want to be the role model. And they're strapping him with this.
And you figure that this child is now going to suddenly go, oh, all right, let me turn the page here. Oh, that's the dad. Okay, now I'm ready. It's not going to happen.
They're turning him into an 18.
It's not going to happen.
And they're just, what they're doing to him is the courts are destroying him. He's upset about not seeing it's his daughter. You know, he raised it as his daughter, but to now turn him into a criminal because he's behind on child support for a daughter that's not biologically him. You know, where's the responsibility from his ex-wife? She should say,
sure, again,
you know what, look, I did this, I made a mistake, I was young, whatever the answer is, we've grown up, leave this man alone, let him be with his daughter. You know, I don't care what the law is, it needs to be changed, but they need to do the right thing and let this man be with his daughter.
I hate to ask this kind of question because I'm so against this whole state of being with a law guardian, but is there really a law guardian or somebody?
There was, and my daughter doesn't want to see me. I went through
By her?
Yeah, I went through that process. My ex-wife made another deal with me, and she said, let them garnish all your money, and I'll give you some back. So there were times I went to the house to knock on the door because I had nothing, no food. I started another life. I'm entitled to have another life. And I quickly fell in love with another woman, and we struggled. I mean, we starved. So I would go to the house and I'd knock on the door. I'd call.
Everybody should know that with the story you're describing, right? Gary could back me up, is very familiar because the application of the law will subdue those who pay. If you don't pay, they'll subdue you anyway. You get the double whammy of not being in any position as a child support payer unless you're lucky.
They were taking $1,515 biweekly for a stretch, leaving me with pennies. And so my ex-wife said to me, Michael, let them continue to do it. Don't quit. Don't complain to your human resources. I'll get the money. You can come and I'll give you some. That never happened. Because I would knock on the door and, Caitlin, don't answer it, run, go in your room, Daddy's here. And I would go there every night and knock, and my daughter was told to go in the room and hide. And I remember one time I knocked on the door and I saw my daughter, a silhouette, watching TV, and I knocked and she went like this, Daddy's here, and she ran to her room and hid.
That is a very strong set of alienation.
A precursor to that was, I picked up my daughter all the time. And when child support restricted me, access was gone because my ex-wife would say, if I went there with a restricted license and picked up my daughter, the court would find her an unfit parent. I've spoken to my ex-wife. She was like she was a friend to my face. Like, no, just I'll forgive these arrears eventually. Right. So I would speak to her family. I would call people I was friends with, had a relationship with. Oh, we'll talk to her. She'll drop this nonsense. So I spoke to my former father-in-law. He said, well, she can't forgive the arrears. The court will find her an unfit mother. I've spoken to child support collections. She can do it. She can just do it. Sure. The court will not find her unfit by allowing me a chance to actually survive.
That's that power base we were talking about before, Gary. Look at that power that person suddenly has.
Right. Now she's saying, well, look, I'm the biological mother. He's not the biological father.
Right.
I make the decisions.
Yeah.
I hold everything. I decide whether he sees his daughter.
Class of non-custodial parent shows up again.
And he's a step below that. They're making him. He's a money. That's all he is money.
He's a money pit. Yeah.
And when he doesn't pay it, you can't see his daughter. You know what? Like he said, your ex-wife can go there and say, it's done. We made a mistake. Leave this man alone. He's not the biological father. Let him see his daughter, and everybody moves on. He goes on with his life. His daughter now has her father back in her life. Instead, the daughter now doesn't have her father. She's going to have issues, of course.
How old is the daughter now?
She's 11.
Imagine what that does to her.
Close. Sure, but it's got to be close to the point where she might be able to make up her own mind. But is that alienation sunk in?
Hurts every day. I saw her at her 5th grade moving up ceremony recently, just this past June. I stood outside in the hallway. I gave her a dozen roses. We met eyes, finally. We were close to each other. I said, Caitlin, Daddy loves you and misses you every day. And I saw pain.
And you couldn't, if you said, Daddy didn't do anything wrong. You have to be careful what you say now.
Yeah, I can't say
anything. At this
anything.
point, you're in a bad spot.
Alienation.
Yeah, it's a severe case of alienation, right?
How do you explain to a young, innocent child that Daddy was forcibly phased out of her life?
Yeah, railroaded.
And at the threat of going to prison.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we were at family court. And me and my ex-wife sat, you know, we actually laughed
I
together.
couldn't do that to my son when the time came also, when I went in and out. He found out eventually, because eventually people in the family knew. But that's what happens. Eventually somebody finds out, and what are you going to do then?
Yeah, I mean,
why didn't you tell me, Dad?
Well, Chris, in my opinion, you have to realize what you're dealing with. And real quick, she filed a violation of that I wasn't making that full payment, and we were in court. We were in court for about 4 hours, 5 hours. I went up to the bailiff, or the guard, whatever, CO, and I said, we've been sitting there for 4 hours. He's like, what's your name? I said, DeFrancesca Farina. He goes, Farina, we called her 2 hours ago. I'm like, so being selfless, I said, the woman's been sitting there all 4 hours. You didn't call her? She's missing work. They said, so what happens now, officer? He goes, we're not hearing your case. You can go home.
Right.
So I walked over to Lynette, and I said, Lynette, they're not hearing us. She goes, why? They called your name. You didn't hear. So I said, I'm leaving. I'll see you later. I left. 1 day later, it's the Halloween parade at Tacan Elementary School. I come walking up, my ex-wife now. Okay, I left the court. She stayed. The bailiff told the guard told me to leave. I come. Hey, we're smiling, we're laughing, we're waving at our daughter walking the parade. I say I'll pick up Caitlin tomorrow for the headless horseman ride that I love to take her to. I go knock on the house door. You can't have her. I'm going to take her. I said, excuse me, I'm here. I'm Caitlin. We've been talking about this. No, you can't hear. So I'm taking her, not you. The stepfather immediately comes to the door. A pushing match ensues. We go over the side of the railing. The police come, and they arrest me. There's a warrant for my arrest. A warrant for missing that court date.
Yeah, that's
unbelievable. So I left the court.
I've seen that.
My ex-wife managed to have the judge hear our case without me present when I was there for 5 hours.
And she was.
The next day I see her at the parade. We're laughing and talking. She could have said, by the way, there's a warrant for your arrest. She didn't say that. The next day I go pick up my daughter. The only reason
Looks like you were set up.
Yes. The only reason she wouldn't let me take my daughter to the Headless Horseman was because she knew there was a warrant for my arrest.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm dealing with. That's my daughter's mother.
Well, the courts are letting it happen, Mike. That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
Somebody should say, look, whatever the law is, it's common sense. It's family court. You know what? This man raised this daughter who's not biologically his, loves her, is trying to be what we want men to be. And you're a prosecutor. You're turning him into a criminal, and everybody's just victimizing this man, not letting him.
They have him, and because they have him, they can do what they want.
How does he ever get out of this situation? It's horrible.
I don't think he can, right?
Well, no, I can't. It's my understanding the Supreme Court can set that aside, but it can never go away unless she says.
Well, Chris,
so.
she can do it.
Even the judge.
Yeah, that's it.
I went to jail. They locked me up. They sent me to Riverhead, and on Monday, I went before the judge upstairs, and he took me and my ex-wife in the room, and he said, how the hell do you owe this woman $300,000? He said, Your Honor, it's a big mistake. So he looked at my ex-wife and goes, can I please let this man go? And my ex-wife obliged, said, yes, you can. They let me go.
So she does have the power, though. She has all the power.
They do.
But that's the reason why we always talk about that
Right.
subject. When you put one parent in charge of the other, you throw that person to a different echelon of level of acceptance in that child's eye. Never mind your own eye.
Who's the bad person here? She's the one who, deceived him.
He's the de facto bad.
now he
We
becomes
know
the
who
bad
is. He's the de facto bad guy, and every other status that would all, unfortunately, erroneously, set in place for us to fail. He's obviously the better parent to have the child.
Of course, he's the man who goes to work
It would
every
not
day.
alienate. I bet you probably still wouldn't do it. Would you alienate her if you had the kid?
Never.
Right. See, there
Not
you go.
even after everything
See,
I've
this
been
is the
through.
problem. The same thing happened to me. I felt the same way. I wouldn't do it.
He never went to his daughter.
I didn't
and
want to
said,
ask
"Look,
my
I'm
wife
not-"
for child support when I got the kid. I just that's enough of this crap already.
Every
Enough of
time
that
my
crap.
daughter was with me, I made sure, call your mother. Call your mother. We're going to bed now. Call your mother.
I did
say
the same
goodnight.
thing. I did the
Call your
same
mother.
thing. Well, you're
never,
consistent.
Never reciprocated.
But that's the right thing
me.
to do. I always did the right thing too, and I'm never going to be thanked for it. And you may never be thanked for it.
But he knows at least he did the right thing.
I feel the same way. I'm confident that where I was, I'm putting myself into this, but I was in the same place you were in, basically. And, you know, I had to deal with that same exact scenario. And I said I was not, the chips, was it ball stops here, the chip stops here, what's that word, the phrase?
Chips fall where they may?
No, whatever it is, I can't
The
think
buck
of it.
stops.
The buck stops here, thank you very much. And I'm not going to ask her for child support, even though she, you know, tore me up.
But people
Sometimes
who
you have to
watching-
stop it yourself,
Right.
and you can, when you have the chance to do that, and you do that, she has the chance to stop it, and she didn't take that.
I would hope she would see the show, and other people would see it and tell her,
Yeah.
and she would come to her, maybe taking a step back, and say, you know what, this is a good man. You know, he goes to work every day. He's going to still be, he's not saying, look, she's not my biological daughter. I want nothing to do with her. No. He's still saying, I want to be the father. I still want to voluntarily pay for what I can afford to pay for. And you know what? Everybody should be outraged and say, you know what? This is just a travesty. It's tragic all around. But let's try to make a bad situation.
Let's have a go at the right thing to do.
Not just keep victimizing him. And
Right.
by victimizing him, they're victimizing his daughter.
There's no escape from that scenario where he didn't have that option. He had to have somebody release him of an obligation, whatever obligation there might have been, either for
But it's a
access
false
to your child or
obligation.
money. Yeah, but he shouldn't be in that
Right.
position.
It's a manufactured obligation.
Absolutely.
Once the
And
truth
you got
came
that
out,
right, that's it. It's manufactured. You didn't create this yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
would you have set up a plan like this to do this in anybody's world?
Never.
Of course.
Never. I would never be.
And here we are in this world dealing with this constantly. This is what we do all the time.
Right. If the roles reversed, I would want my daughters. I would want my daughter's other parent to be as successful as they could. I would never hold them back.
Right.
Never. You know, I've given my ex-wife everything. The house, I wanted nothing. I just walked out with my shirt. You know, I never. Everything my ex-wife has asked me, I've given her. Maybe that was my problem. At our divorce, I didn't even have a lawyer. I said, you know what? I don't care. You take it all. When they came up with this number, $6,000 a month, I said, I better get a lawyer. My ex-wife said to me, Michael, I want to get divorced today. I don't want to come back. Let's get divorced now. Please just agree to $6,800 a month.
Yeah.
I swear I'll never hold you to it.
Yeah. No matter what, they're making liars out of a lot of women, but I've seen this all too often. They must be coached by the attorney.
Absolutely.
I cannot think.
Absolutely.
You both said absolutely for good reason. We know, we've seen enough of this.
They're salesmen.
Yeah.
And to
They
some
have to be
extent,
salesmen.
I'm sure he's coached because they're lulling him into a false sense of security, not realizing he's probably never been divorced before this.
Right.
So he didn't know that once he signed that paper,
You're done.
that was it.
You're
He was
toast.
done.
Yeah.
There was no
Yeah,
going
you signed
back.
a contract, basically, with
Right.
whoever the entity is. Yeah.
I saw the attorney in court a year after, and I said, hey, I'm in trouble. Can you help me? So I said,
It'll
Mike.
cost you.
He goes, no, I could tell. He felt bad. He goes, oh my God.
Yeah.
Phil Castrovinci. I walked up to him in family court. I said, Phil, he said he couldn't represent me because my ex-wife may hire him again in the future.
Sure.
But he felt clearly bad. And I was okay. I was happy I got that.
I hate to say, really, you know.
I was happy I got that.
Wow. I mean, just to have that alone make you happy.
I'm a selfless person.
I mean,
There are some of us out there.
And
Yeah, but
unfortunately,
I feel
that's-
like I was too.
It's easier to make somebody like Mike a victim because, to some extent, not that it's your fault, but he allowed it to happen by saying, you know what, I just want to do the right thing. I
Yeah.
want to do the right thing by my ex-wife, the mother of my daughter. I want to do the right thing by my daughter, and I want to move on with my life. And by doing that, it put him in this unfortunate, put him in a worse situation that he can't now go back and say, look, I made a mistake. I just can't do this. And what's the outcome? It's not going to. If his ex-wife doesn't let it go away, where does it go? Do we end up putting this man in jail?
What's going to happen at this point?
He could end up in jail, unfortunately.
Every time they take me back, they take what I couldn't afford from that number and they put it on the back of the arrears.
Right.
So
It's
never
going to go
gonna-
on forever.
Forever.
And just
until
having
she.
So you're not only trapped by the system, they've acquired whatever money they can to reutilize against other people, by the way. You know, the funding goes back to the federal government just to keep delivering more money. But now you have no place to go. You can't even make a decision going forward because then that'll be gone.
Well, I mean, for the rest of my life, I can never drive and I can never leave the country. I can't go to. Me and my. I'm getting married. We can't go to a white sandy beach. I'm not allowed to get out. I'm not allowed to leave the country.
And how does he go on with his life mentally?
I can never.
Right.
This is hanging over his head.
Right.
I have dreams.
Yeah.
I'd love to go to Africa.
Yeah.
Can't happen.
I mean, he can get stopped by
what- you know,
police
there
and go
was-
to jail. You know,
see-
it's hanging over his head all the time.
Cases like this often, as you know, Gary, because we've talked about this for a long time, are from a vindictive wife. What would she be vindictive about?
I found out something I wasn't supposed to find out.
I guess by making him look
She
like
gave
the
you
worst
signs,
person.
according to the story you told us, she gave you signs that that might be so. Kind of foolishly on her part, I thought.
Yes. Well, she's not educated to the, you know, she was a bartender. So I wouldn't say, when these situations, and I don't want to make, you know, we can all achieve such great potential, but these type of disagreements, it's usually because of lack of education, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Intelligence. There's a saying, when there is level of intelligence, there's
I've discovered people with intelligence and also another emotional intelligence or lack thereof. There are people who emotionally, when caused to be faced with an emotional decision, lose their ability to stay focused and lose their ability to stay intelligent, even if they might be otherwise. Look at the dopey things your wife did.
Right. Well, I think in a situation like this where his ex-wife realizes that society would look on her and say what she did was horrible. People would say, what a horrible person.
Right.
So her goal now is to make Mike look like a worse person than her. And he deserved this because he's a bad guy. And that's what I see.
That's what I'm saying. I don't
happens.
see in his case where she would be in that place to do that. To me, she's pretty, would you say, education less?
I mean, what she did was horrible.
Yeah.
And she's continuing to do
It's kind of evil.
is evil, horrible. And what kind of person would do this
It's
to
a horrible
somebody?
thing to do. I don't understand it. That's why I was wondering, you know.
There's something that you'd never do in society. Unfortunately, it does happen every day. You don't hurt a kid. For her to lie to her own child every day,
Yeah.
that's on the forefront of my
It'll
mind.
eventually come out that that's happened. Well, this program's it's run its course here for the day. I want to thank you for showing up, Mike, and to talk to us about the subject. I only wish that other people would be able to gather what's happened here to you, and we've done programs that are like this that really ring true for people to stop this crazy law, because the laws are insane. They're out of control. Out of control. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. We always invite all opposing views. My name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.
Your generous support has made it possible for United Way to help build strong communities across America for over 100 years. Thank you. Now more than ever, it's crucial that we maintain the strength and vitality of our neighborhoods, towns, and cities. United Way is active in local communities 365 days a year, making a measurable difference in the lives of Americans. Helping local communities identify pressing issues and opportunities, and committing the resources necessary to address them. United Way helps to strengthen America one community at a time. Your local United Way has relied on your generous support for years. Your community is counting on you. Please continue to support your local United Way. Strong communities mean a stronger America.